Love or family? David looked out the window of the taxi, watching the city go by. Tall buildings, busy streets, and people rushing everywhere. It all felt far away. His mind was heavy, not because of any big problem, but because of a quiet, nagging emptiness. Life was fine, stable and predictable, but deep down, something felt missing. When he arrived at the conference, David checked his watch and walked inside. The room was large and buzzing with voices and energy. He found a seat near the back and looked at the program. His eyes stopped at a name, Sophia Bennett. The name felt familiar. Could it be her? Sophia, his first love. He shook his head. It was probably just someone else. When the next speaker was introduced, David froze. It was her. Sophia stood on the stage, calm and confident. Her voice filled the room, drawing everyone in. David's heart raced as old memories, long forgotten, came rushing back. He felt his chest tighten, and the room seemed to blur. When her speech ended, the crowd applauded, but David barely noticed. He was lost in his thoughts. As people started to leave, he made his way toward her.
Sophia.
His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. She turned, and for a moment, everything felt still. Her eyes widened, and a soft smile appeared.
David, is that really you?
They stood there, caught between the past and the present, before deciding to meet for coffee. As they walked to a nearby cafe, the air buzzed with excitement and nerves. The cafe was quiet, hidden away from the noise of the streets. They chose a small table in the corner, away from anyone who might notice them. David and Sophia started with small talk. Work, family, travels. But soon, the conversation shifted.
Do you remember that trip to the coast?
Sophia asked, her eyes lighting up. David smiled.
Of course. We got lost for hours.
And we ended up at that little diner.
Sophia added, laughing.
You said their pie was the best thing you'd ever had.
David chuckled. It felt strange to laugh like that again, but it also felt good. As they laughed, a quiet sadness lingered beneath the surface. Once, Sophia had been everything to him. They had dreams and plans. But life took them in different directions. Her family moved overseas, and they lost touch. Sophia's voice grew softer.
Do you ever wonder, what if things had been different?
David looked down at his coffee, feeling a tightness in his chest.
I thought about that a lot. For years.
They sat in silence for a moment, lost in their own thoughts. The time apart hadn't broken their connection. It felt even stronger now, but things were complicated. David's phone buzzed, breaking the quiet. It was a message from Emily, his wife.
How's the conference? We miss you.
David felt a pang of guilt as he quickly replied.
It's good. I'll be home soon.
Sophia noticed the change in his expression, but didn't say anything. In the weeks that followed, David and Sophia met a few more times. Each meeting brought both happiness and sadness. Being with Sophia made David feel alive again, but the guilt never left him. At home, David watched his wife, Emily, and their children. Emily was kind, patient, and always supportive. She gave him everything, and he knew she deserved all his love. But Sophia had stirred something deep inside him. A part of himself he thought was gone. Late at night, David lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was filled with conflicting thoughts. On one side was his family, the center of his world. On the other side was Sophia, the what-if, the story that had never been finished. One evening, after a quiet dinner with Emily, the weight of his thoughts became too much. He stood up suddenly.
David? What's wrong?
Emily asked, her voice full of worry. He hesitated, struggling to find the right words.
I don't know, Em. I just feel lost.
Emily looked at him, her eyes gentle and caring.
You can talk to me.
She said softly.
I'm here for you.
David's chest tightened. Emily didn't deserve this. His heart was torn, thinking of Sophia while knowing that Emily had always been the one by his side. That day, David had just come back from a tough meeting when he got a call from Emily. Her voice shook in a way he had never heard before.
David, the baby, Lily, she fell at school.
Emily said, breathing quickly.
Her teacher called. She's at the hospital. I don't know what to do.
David felt his heart stop. He couldn't focus on anything else. The only word echoing in his mind was Lily. He rushed out of his office and got into a taxi, panic gripping him. The ride felt unreal, like time had slowed down. Every second stretched on, and images of Lily kept flashing in his head. When he reached the hospital, the sight of the large building did nothing to calm him. He walked into the emergency room and spotted Emily sitting in the corner. Her eyes were red, and she clutched the edge of her chair tightly. Lily lay on a hospital bed, pale, with her left arm in a cast. Her face was twisted in pain. Emily looked up at David, her eyes filled with fear.
The doctor said she fell from a height. It's not too serious, but I'm scared, David. What if something else happens?
David felt like he couldn't breathe. His chest tightened as he walked over to Lily and gently held her small, cold hand.
Lily, wake up.
He whispered, his voice trembling, tears filling his eyes. Lily's eyes fluttered open. She gave him a faint smile.
Daddy, don't worry. I'm okay.
She said softly. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. Every word felt like a dagger to David's heart. He felt helpless. He hadn't been there when she needed him, and now all he could do was watch her suffer. The doctor came in and explained things, but David barely heard him. Words like monitoring, complications, and special care floated around, but none of it seemed real. All that mattered was Lily. He glanced at Emily and saw the fear in her eyes. They both felt powerless. Inside, David's emotions churned, a storm of fear and guilt growing stronger. The next day, Lily was awake. She sat up in bed, her face still pale but brighter than before. David and Emily sat beside her, but David couldn't feel at peace. He kept looking at his daughter and wife, but his mind drifted back to Sophia. The meetings with Sophia over the past weeks stayed in his head. Each time they talked, he felt more alive, like he had found a lost part of himself. That feeling wouldn't go away, making it hard for him to think clearly. That night, when the house was quiet, David sat alone, holding his phone. He opened the last message from Sophia.
I understand, David, but I can't ignore how I feel. I don't want to be the reason you're torn.
He read the message again and again, feeling a deep ache in his chest. He knew he had to make a choice. If he kept searching for the person he once was with Sophia, he risked losing everything he had now. Could he live without Lily, without Emily? David's eyes rested on a family photo on the table. It showed a happy moment. A sunny day when he played with Lily in the garden, laughing with Emily. Those moments were real, precious, and nothing could replace them. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and clenched his fists. He knew what he had to do. No matter how strong his feelings for Sophia were, his family was what mattered most. The next morning, David made a decision. He called Sophia.
Sophia, we need to stop.
He said, his voice steady but tired. The words were simple, but for David, they felt like a release. It was the right choice, even though it hurt. A few months later, David stood by the window, watching Lily play happily with Emily in the garden. His heart felt at peace. He knew he had made the right choice. His family was everything. Lily ran to him, her face full of joy.
Daddy, I love you so much.
She said with a big smile. David knelt down and hugged her tightly, feeling his worries melt away. The pain and doubts were gone. He had found himself again, right here with his family. Sophia would always be a part of his past, but David knew he had chosen the path that truly mattered. The path back to his family, where he belonged. Thank you for watching. Keep learning and practicing every day. Learn English through stories. Practice speaking with shadowing. Stay with us at Deep Into English and improve your English step by step. Remember, easy English stories can help you grow. See you in the next video.